Good morning. Happy Monday. How are you all doing today? Today is day 16 of the Silence Challenge and reading the book Silence by Erling Cargi, Silence in the Age of Noise. Today's chapter is a pretty deep one. It's talking about the philosophy, the big questions. There's a little bit of religion in there, different religions looking at the topic of silence. And I just wanted to preface today's silence with the fact that we are sitting for a bit of fun and to just do it as a challenge to see if can we just sit with no distractions for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, because the way that our attention span and our focus is becoming more and more challenged with social media and the short form content, meaning that if something doesn't really grab us, we cannot bear to sit and listen to it. We have to kind of scroll and get the next thing because we want that injection of dopamine. We're not able to tolerate boredom the same as we once were. So we're kind of doing it for that reason. But this is getting into, that I teach yoga. It's getting into the deeper stuff in terms of, well, if we can sit for longer, we sit and meditate, we can experience silence for ourselves away from this challenge, then, that's where we can find all the answers that we need. All the answers that we need are inside of us when we do that deeper work, when we go within, when we seek the answers. Who am I? The deeper questions, that has to be done in silence. We can't really get there with guided meditations and people kind of like pointing the finger. The saying, I think it's Buddhism saying, pointing the finger to the moon. It's not the finger. It's kind of like difficult to explain something in words. We have to experience it ourselves. But with our little challenge, we can begin to train ourselves, if you like, in being able to tolerate silence, so that then you can go on if you want to and do these longer stints of meditation. So, chapter 16, sit comfortably. It's cold today here, hence the big jumper. How should we live? That's one of the biggest of the big questions. In the old days, great and not so great philosophers made attempts to find the answer. The result was extensive theories and loads of reading material. Most philosophers nowadays are geared towards politics, language, and analytics. Few philosophers focus on silence and what it can do for you and me. Several philosophers have remarked to me, in much the same vein as my children's comments around the dinner table, that silence is nothing and therefore uninteresting. That's a pity. On the other hand, few philosophers are able to bake a cake. So many of them are far removed from both the small and big challenges of practical everyday life. In the first year of philosophy studies, you are taught that from nothing comes nothing. Ex nihilo nihil fit. The proposition is as apt as it is ancient. The philosopher Parmenides claimed that it was impossible to speak about that which does not exist. And with that, he broke his own proposition. Might take you a second to let that sink in. It did me. I had to read it again. The philosopher Parmenides claimed that it was impossible to speak about that which does not exist. And with that, he broke his own proposition. To the amusement, hang on, I just turned the page, of many. But I think that in this case, the conclusion is based on a tiny misunderstanding. After all, silence is not nothing. It is better to say that from something comes something. For thousands of years, individuals who lived in close quarters with no one but themselves around monks on mountain tops, hermits, sailors, shepherds, and explorers on their voyage home have been convinced that the answer to life's mysteries can be found in silence. That is the point. You sail out across the sea, but it's when you make your return that you may discover what you have been seeking is in fact inside yourself. The same claim has been repeated for such a long time, so there's probably a good reason to take it seriously. Jesus and Buddha ventured into silence in order to understand how they should live. Jesus to the wilderness, and Buddha to the mountain and the river. In silence, Jesus prepared himself for God. The river taught Buddha to hear, to listen with a still heart, and with a waiting, open mind. In some religions, the gods appear as a thundercrack or a storm. In the Bible, God is often the silence. In the book of Kings, we are told of the way in which God reveals himself to Elijah. First came the hurricane, then an earthquake, and after that, fire. God was not in any of them. God came later in a small, quiet voice or a brittle silence, as some newer translations have it. I like that. God is in the silence. A much related story in Hindu philosophy, which could just as well have been from the Buddhist practice, talks about a student who asks his teacher, to explain Brahman, the soul of the world. Upon hearing the question, the teacher remains silent. The student repeats the question 2 or 3 more times without receiving a single word in reply. Finally, the teacher opens his mouth and says, I am instructing you now, but you are not listening. The answer, of course, was silence. Within Zen Buddhism, one goal is to change what you see, the visible world. The most well-known practice is koan, is to sit silently and imagine the sound of a single hand clapping. The point is to imagine the one-armed clapping, which is impossible, and to dwell on what it means to move beyond that which is logical and sensible. Another homemade koan that may be worthwhile imagining is this: silence without the existence of words, or try thinking about something that does not exist. The ancient philosophers Aristotle and Plato spoke of the knowledge of eternity, and with it truth as wordless. Plato called it archeton, the unspeakable, and Aristotle anoulogo, which means without speech or without words. Where vocabulary ends, the two philosophers claimed is an opening for the possibility of understanding great truths at once. And not only the great truths, but the small ones too. For instance, when you end up driving in the wrong direction, are forced to stop, check the GPS, turn down the music, and ask others in the car to quieten down so you can get some clarity in your head. This enables you to gather your thoughts about the one thing that holds any meaning in that one precise moment, finding the right direction. So, what is your key takeaway from today's reading, I wonder? For me, it's the fact that all the religions seem to point towards silence being important. So, again, like it said in the reading, maybe we should listen to that. And, to just make a little vow, a little promise to ourselves to find a pocket of peace during each day to experience the silence. Today we're going to do 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So sit comfortably, close your eyes if you wish, or keep them open and just gaze around the space that you're practicing in. Let it go. We will begin now. that's it for today's period of silence. Take a deep breath, let it go. If you want to take more time, absolutely feel free. If you're enjoying the pockets of peace, the tiny drop-ins of silence, please do drop me a comment, hit the like button. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. If you're watching this on TikTok, follow along for more. I'll be back with you again tomorrow for day 17. Bye for now.